My name is Mark Zides, and I'm the author of The PACE Process, the Early Guide for Career Success. And I'm really proud about this book and its recent launch. It was actually first day off Amazon. Proud to say that it was number one in two categories. It was number one in resumes and number one in interviewing. So never expected that when I set upon writing the book over a year or so ago. And I'm glad that it's been well received so far. And I'm very, very humbled by the feedback and what we've learned so far. And, you know, the reason or the purpose for writing the book was really to give back to this younger generation that's entering the workforce, call it the Gen Zs and the young Gen Ys. And the why of the book is because, in the work that I do as the CEO of CoreAxis, what we've learned over the past 25 years in speaking with heads of HR or CEOs of some of the largest brands in the world, whether it's Bank of America, Thermo Fisher Scientific, Dell Technologies, Amazon, in their onboarding new hire programs, they're telling us as a leader of leadership and education training that these incoming students or these incoming new hires are not prepared. And they're not prepared to enter the workforce and make an impact right away. And, I felt really that I wanted to provide guidance and provide feedback to the market and to this generation. And I bring a different perspective, I believe, a couple things. One is I have three Gen Zers of my own, three kids, two in college now, and one who's a junior in high school, looking to go to college. And our oldest, was fortunate enough to land a job, and he'll graduate in June and start a new career in July. And what I've learned is really from their friends and their peers that a lot of these students, because of technology, because of the culture that we're in now, aren't really prepared and set up for success. And this guide or this book is structured in a way to kind of help them with some pointers and some guidance to prepare for, entering the workforce for the first time. And PACE, PAC is something that I have used as a fun word, with friends or colleagues or my kids or their friends. And I've said, hey, keep the pace. Or at the end of an email, I might say, slow down your pace. Or I might just say pace. And it's one of those words that means a lot of different things. And when I was finishing up the book last fall, we decided that it really has more of an impact if it's an acronym. So we took PACE as prepare, apply, commit, and evaluate as part of sort of the overarching guidance that I wanted to drive through this book. So with P, hopefully these students or soon to be professionals will prepare for an interview. They'll prepare through doing research at a company that they want to work at. They'll prepare, their cover letters. They'll do all the things, and it might sound tactical, or it may sound a little, as I call it, motherhood and apple pie-ish with respect to what others may know that are experienced, like Gen Xers like myself, and we take for granted. But you really need to differentiate yourself in the market and build your personal brand, because going to market as an individual is much different now than it was 5-10 years ago. Social media is a very important aspect where somebody can brand themselves and try to network and get a job. LinkedIn didn't exist 20 years ago when all these kids were born. It's a platform that they can use to accelerate their network, but it's also challenging because it creates a more competitive playing field because everyone can use LinkedIn, right? But if you're on LinkedIn and you're on Instagram and you're on other social media platforms, you have to be professional. You have to make sure that your Instagram doesn't have party photos on it, for example, because guess what? Recruiters and hiring managers at these companies are trolling the internet looking at your background to see what you're all about. So, some of the preparedness and some of that upfront stuff is important. Then it's the apply for job. What do you need to do there? Prepping for the interview, doing a mock interview. A lot of times now you're not interviewing face-to-face. You're not shaking someone's hand and making that great first impression. Guess what? Your first impression is through Zoom potentially in your first interview. That's much different than it was just a few years ago. As far as committing, where are you in your job growth or your career trajectory? When you get into a job, a lot of times you want to reflect and figure out, okay, is this the right role for me? Is this the right company for me? Is this the right industry for me? So you have to think about, kind of, okay, what am I doing to better myself? What am I doing to learn something new every day? What am I doing to make an impact in the organization? And then E is evaluate, right? That's sort of the same thing. It's like, okay, the days of someone being in a company for 30 years are not very common anymore, right? But what you can do is you can build your brand. You can stay at a company for a long time, but pivot and take on other assignments and projects within an organization. So maybe start in finance, go to marketing, then potentially try supply chain and build your own brand, throughout an organization. So, the book has a lot of these pieces of advice. It brings in some data. We got a little bit of tough love in there, sort of from the Coach Zides perspective that I like to call it. And what that is my experience, coaching my kids, coaching, this younger generation in a few different sports and giving them a little bit of tough love, the lessons that maybe a lot of, in general, kids don't get. A lot of people call this generation the trophy generation, or, everyone kind of, it's easy for all these folks or all these kids. And I think it's tougher. I think actually they have it harder than I had or people in my generation had trying to get a job. I didn't need an internship my junior year in college to build my resume to get a job. I didn't necessarily need an MBA or a master's degree to, get the top job. A lot of these kids, that's a requirement now, and it's harder and it's more competitive. So really hoping that this book can be a guide, can be an inspiration for these, kids as they get into the workforce, as well as their parents potentially, as they want to kind of coach and help these kids, as they move along early in their career. So whether it's getting your first job or you're in your first job and you're in your early to mid 20s and you're trying to figure out, what do I do next? I'm hoping that this book can be a great guide, a great playbook, and a great inspiration for Gen Z, as well as, younger Gen Ys out there, millennials. So I hope you read it. I hope you enjoy it. And if you do, give me some feedback, engage with me, follow me on LinkedIn, social media. I'm happy to help. Really enjoy the opportunity to kind of give back to this generation.